The Moral and Ethical Leadership Podcast, hosted by the BYU Management Society Salt Lake Chapter. I'm Dave Austin.
And I'm Kurt Frankham.
And part of the mission of the BYU Management Society Salt Lake Chapter is to provide scholarships to service-oriented high school seniors.
Each year, between 60 to 75 deserving students are awarded scholarships to local colleges and trade schools. If your family or business would like to join in providing scholarships to these future leaders by sponsoring a podcast, please contact us at byupodcast.slc@gmail.com and we'll be in touch.
And each time we do one of these interviews, I am so excited for the opportunity. I feel like I learn more than anyone by virtue of having the chance to listen to each of our amazing guests. And today is no exception, as we have the marvelous opportunity to meet with Mayor Michelle Kaufusi. Michelle Kaufusi is a Provo girl through and through, born and raised, graduated from BYU, and ultimately making history as its first female mayor. The sixth of 7 children, Michelle was raised not only by a single mother working hard as a graveyard shift nurse, but also by many neighbors, family, and friends who pitched in to help. Provo quite literally helped raise Michelle. In gratitude, Michelle has continually found ways to give back to her village by helping to raise Provo in return. Always actively involved in community service, Michelle served on many boards and commissions, including the Provo City Citizens Advisory Board and the Provo City District Board, ultimately serving as its board president. With only 2 years of being elected as the first female mayor in Provo City, Mayor Kaufusi earned the honor of Informed Decision Maker of the Year by the Kem C. Gardner Policy Institute. Under her leadership, Provo City continually receives national accolades, with 2020 distinctions being number 1 safest big city, number 3 best run city, and number 3 best college city. Recently named as a 2021 best performing city by the renowned Milken Institute, Provo stands out nationally for its job growth, high-tech concentration, and its high-quality lifestyle without the price tag of comparable tech cities. Mayor Kaufusi and her amazing husband, Steve, are parents to 5 wonderful children, and as BYU fans, we're very grateful for their contributions. Mayor Kaufusi, it is an honor for us to be able to talk with you. Welcome.
Well, thank you. And that piece about 5 wonderful children, well, they're just as rotten as everyone else's, so don't give them too much credit.
Gotta keep them humble, right?
They're very normal and average, and people give them a lot of credit. And I just look at people and think, really? You know, he had to be grounded multiple times. He had to scrub the bathrooms before he could go to a state championship party, and they're just normal kids.
The part about your husband being marvelous, that's true, right?
Oh, like I stated earlier, you cannot hold a public seat and be a woman and a mom and a sister and a wife without a husband that is the best and willing to literally give you to the public, because that's what you become. You become a public figure, and bless his heart. I mean, I should count all the texts of, when are you coming home? Or, I just saw you on the news. Is everything okay? So he is, you couldn't pull this off and without a loving, supporting husband.
Well, Mayor, I know we just had an amazing webinar with you, so inspirational, and I hate to make you do it twice, but your story is so inspirational and real. And since we have a larger audience, would you mind telling us your story and maybe something about yourself or your hobbies that our listeners may not know?
Yeah, so the story, I feel embarrassed to have to tell it again, because like I stated, it's kind of hard to walk back when you kind of had a little bit of a rough growing up, and it brings up all those, it's like the feelings come up, but it is who I am. And it's what landed me in this seat, which I am in, that I do not take for granted a single moment. Just briefly, I was born into a family of 7 children in Provo. We actually lived in a little 2.5 bedroom home just right off Center Street with 7 kids. A single mom, which was unheard of back in the 60s. A dad that had a lot of issues, not a member. The police were at our home, and just a rough go. And anyways, we were all told that we had to work hard. She would work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. She'd pull in, she worked at the newborn nursery at Utah Valley for years and years to support us. She would pull in the driveway, and I love to tell how she would hand me and I would have my little brother and we would be going to the bus stop, and she'd hand a tab and a Pop-Tart to each of us, and that was our breakfast. And I always felt so lucky because I got soda and a Pop-Tart, and all the other kids probably had to eat oatmeal and had their moms walking them to the bus stop. And my mom was like, goodbye, I'm going to bed for a few hours. Anyways, just learned from her hard work and what it means to be the kid that's on free and reduced lunch, and but not wanting to be that kid and wanting to blend and not be I don't, it's just so emotional, right? When you think about growing up. So I have always had this desire to serve and give back to the community. So many neighbors stepped in when I needed, and all my siblings needed to earn extra money to help my mom get snow tires for our Chevy Citation. I remember we all went to work, and my neighbors were so kind and gracious. They didn't need someone to scrub their bathrooms or read a book to their kids and get paid to do it, but they all stepped up. So always felt this loyalty to Provo, and was able to attend BYU and just able to meet my husband, who is an immigrant from a little tiny dot in the South Pacific. I know when you say Tonga, you probably think that's that's probably a good sized island. I've been there, and there's 200 islands in Tonga, and he's from a dot. And I literally, when I took a boat to where he came from, I stood there with no running water, no electricity, and just started to cry because I just couldn't believe that here I was, a Provo girl at BYU, and somehow we were brought together. And seeing where he was from was just a whole nother set of feelings. But yeah, just so grateful for all the opportunities and the ability to go to BYU. I worked really hard. I told the story. I went on a field trip to BYU when I was a sophomore, and I came back, and because we had to kind of fend for ourselves, we weren't afraid to talk to adults, which my own kids were for a while, and I had to always push them. But I went right into my counselor and said, what does it take to get to that university? That's where I want to go. And she said, I can tell you how to get there. It's going to take some work. You've got 3 years to figure it out. And was so grateful that I was able to get offered an academic scholarship and go to BYU. They offered it for fall. I was so excited. I didn't want to take summer off. So I reached out. I remember going to the admin building and asking if I could start summer, and they approved it. And anyways, just loved my experience in Provo, and the giving back and serving has always just been near and dear to my heart. Wanting to serve the underserved, that maybe don't get all the attention and don't have a voice. When my kids went, I tended to go, and like I state all the time, I'm not worried about my kids. They had a mom that adored them and a dad that loved them. They had the gospel, and I'm a great cook and I can cook big. They got hot meals for breakfast and lunch and dinner. They were well taken care of. It wasn't my kids I was going to bat for in the community. It was the kids that tended to be like myself. And that is where I found my niche and my love to serve, was getting a few wins in the community by volunteering and serving on boards and commissions. And once I got those wins, then I thought, this feels good and this is where I need to be. It's where I'm meant to be.
That's an inspiring story for sure. So, Mayor, when was there a moment or an experience where you woke up and thought that maybe being mayor was in your future?
First of all, it is just never front of brain. Like when people, I saw on my Facebook, it's written politician, I thought, delete it. I am not a politician, because that's never been the intent. And the intent has always just been to serve. And I think the moment, it's hard to step into this political arena, right? At any level. And I was on the Board of Education, and that was hard, but stepping into it, you have to be really vulnerable. You have to be able to let mistruths be said about you, and you catch your breath and not become, discouraged. And you have to be okay putting your family out in front. And that's not natural for myself or for most women at all. We're not, that's not our comfort zone. But there's just this nudge that is so annoying. And and it's this, it just reminds me of this maternal instinct you get once in a while. And for each, this is actually my 11th year holding political office. For each time I've been prompted or someone's pushed me to the front to run, I've taken my time and always felt that little nudge. And plus, who wouldn't want to run, right? In a city that's never had a woman mayor, and to be the 45th and the first woman, no sweat. And that's with all sarcasm.
Right. Love it.
Mayor Kaufusi, to that point, what have been some of your key learnings around the subject of leadership, and how can more women and minorities get involved in political office?
So I am a huge advocate to get more women at the table, and I work with almost all men, and I love working with men. They're so great. We can fight behind closed doors, and they never hold grudges, and they agree to disagree, and we're great. But there's a component that women bring to the table that is unique, and it's a nurturing and just a different. I've witnessed it now straight for 11 years. I've often reflected on a lot of my mothering skills, and I'll be in just a major decision, like multi-million-dollar decision, and I'll watch the 17 men around the table just going at it. And I'll have a flashback of my 3 boys fighting over a stick they made into a sword in the backyard. And how did I handle that? And then I bring that to the table and we resolve the problem. And so we need women at the table. We do. We bring something unique that it's hard to put your finger on it. And the other reason you need to be at the table is you need to have a vote. A lot of women were like me that volunteered and made significant changes in their city. We did a park and headed that up, and did all this beautification and quality of life, volunteerism in the city. But I learned very fast that you need to have a seat at the table and have a vote and make changes to policy. That's where the real changes happen. That's why I just am always given a pitch to get more of my friends step out and step into the arena and not be afraid.
Yeah. And I'm curious, now that you've spent some time in this role as mayor, there's a lot of movement and effort and encouragement for more and more women to get into politics. I don't think that's for whatever reason, our culture or the way it is, that's maybe not at the top of the list. A lot of women's to-dos or goals in life. And so from the perspective of being in that chair as mayor, what have you learned that would maybe help women become more engaged in politics and actually run for political office?
I think the biggest piece to that would be, until you land the seat and the vote, you don't even realize how significant it is. How much these generational decisions you're making are going to impact generations to come. And don't you want to be at the table? Don't you want to have some say so? I mean, we have raised children on tight budgets. We know how to budget. We have been told there's $200 for Christmas this year. So how are you going to make it happen with 5 kids and a little nephew you're raising? I mean, we have tackled some tough things, and we need that kind of skill set at the table. This creative thinking, this out of the box thinking. It's so scary. And every time I had someone that's running for city council, a woman in my office last week, and she said, I just felt like I needed to graduate from law school and check all these boxes before I dared. And I'm just here to tell you, you do not. You just need to have a desire to serve and a passion for doing the right thing and being honest and full of integrity. And we need you at the table.
And to that point, one of the things that you brought up in this webinar is that you said that in the end, it's always what's best for the community, even if it's something maybe different that you want. How do you balance that from also a moral and ethical leadership standpoint?
So the beauty of Utah and Provo is there's already this lovely high level of morality and ethics. I sit on some federal boards, and I'm actually having to fly to Florida to do my vote. And I go back to DC for my meetings and I just think, are you kidding me? What a wreck. I mean, come on. And then I come to the state and I just remember I was telling a senator back in DC, actually pre-COVID, where I was from, because he said, wow, you just really let us all have it. And he said, and then you did it with a smile. And I said, I'm from Provo, Utah, and I believe in the morals and ethics behind this decision. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And he said, Mayor, you're from God's country. And I'll never forget that, because we're lucky. There is a level that's already set, but as an elected official, it's my job to even raise that and to bring it to a higher level. And I would hope the next mayor takes it even higher.
Yeah. I'm curious what advice you'd have for just everyday citizens of any city. Obviously, you're encouraging those in Provo to be involved and whatnot, but sometimes it's easy to sort of dismiss the local politics. You know, the mayor's doing their job, whatever, and maybe I'll get upset about this or that here and there. But and then we look at national politics, sort of our soap opera, right? We almost watch it for entertainment value than anything. How can we be better citizens? Just in our communities or towns in general?
First of all, I just can't wait to text my family's group text and say, someone asked me what the mayor thinks, because every time I try and ask their opinion on, this or that, they're like, Mom, nobody cares in Provo what the mayor thinks. And so validation.
Nice.
So I guess, my mind's going off in a couple different directions. Can you just be more point specific?
Yes. What can I do in the next 3 months to be more engaged in my city rather than just assuming politics or the city's running just fine?
Exactly. So it's called, a lot of it happens to what you stated earlier, NIMBYism. As long as the city's running smooth, I don't care. But as soon as it's in my backyard, I'm at and I'm ticked. And now I understand, I'm learning about government and how it works and how it runs. And there's so much more to the community. There's so many levels and layers. And if you can get engaged, and when I say engaged, I mean simple things like your utility bill. This is just so perfect. It's on my desk. Getting your utility bill, even if you pay online, we still send out a newsletter. Reading that and staying a little bit current, maybe following on social media, some of our feeds, doing some of those things just to kind of, have a touch with the city. You will be amazed at everything that's going on and all the wonderful things we offer. And as the mayor, when you run for office, they pretty much make you mayor. It's like, it reminded me of marriage, right? You go into the recorder's office, you pay a fee, they read you your rights pretty much, and then you have to sign that you will uphold this code of ethics. And when you do that, your job as the mayor becomes safety, quality of life, all these things. And we're constantly making it a better place for the citizens. So any engagement we can get, any touch to the outside, to the citizens, we are all over it. And so I would say in the next 3 months, if it were me, if I moved here to Provo and I wanted to get engaged, I think I would first get on social media and start following all your social media channels. And then I would find a way to engage, whether it's joining the rec center, just simple things, taking my kids ice skating, going to a park, hiking a trail, start using some of the amenities that the city offers, because once you take a bite of the apple, you just keep going, because it just opens these floodgates of everything the cities have to offer.
Mayor, I know that we're down to our final 4 minutes here. We had so many questions on the webinar, a couple that we couldn't get to, and there's one that stood out to me I'd like to ask briefly here. And the question is, are there any changes that you wish you could make or influence, be it with family, government, church, that currently seem difficult or impossible to affect?
Oh, that is such a good question. I'm trying to think. So much of it is bridge building. When you talk about those three, and people will often say things to me like, you're from that church, and what does that mean? And sometimes you use the words grateful and prayerful and things like that. And I just have to often remind people this whole nation was built on prayer and coming together and trying to be a problem solver. And I think probably if I could, lessons learned, I maybe would have come in with a little more confidence right out of the gate instead of being a little bit of let me sit and listen and learn, which is a good skill for a leader, but you have to, take it and own it. And I took a little bit of time just because I was watching the body language of a lot of my employees, having a first woman in house, and they just kind of eased into it a little bit slower, which was great and has served me well, but maybe had a little more confidence.
Well, Mayor, we are so appreciative for your time, both on our webinar and also here on our podcast. And truly, you are an inspiration, and we are so grateful for your time.
Well, I appreciate everything you do and what you stand for, and just support everything you're about. So thank you.
And thank you to all of our listeners. We'll be back again next month with another episode of our Moral and Ethical Leadership Podcast. Have a great rest of your week.